Hi guys, welcome back to Money Monday. So in some of my videos and in some of my comments to you guys on YouTube, I have recommended a really important and highly valuable book called Motivated Money by Peter Thornhill. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for you guys to meet the man behind this book and hear about his passion, why investing is so important, and what are some key things that he thinks you guys need to know. So everyone, I'd love you to meet Peter, and I will make sure I link Peter's website below. So if you're interested, if you haven't read his book already, I highly recommend you jump online and have a look at it because it is fantastic, and it's also incredibly easy to read, and as the name says, extremely motivating. So Peter, thank you so much for spending time with me. I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. My first question is what worries you the most when it comes to you hearing about people investing and you sort of hear the sort of cafe talk and people's opinions?
Probably the biggest issue is lack of knowledge. The thing I find with the share market and people's reactions to it, the adage is fear is based on ignorance. And for most people, the fear or the fright or the concern with the share market largely revolves around their lack of knowledge.
And so therefore it's that flight or fright or freeze technique, often where people just then do nothing and just bury their head in the sand, and years pass and they've missed out on amazing opportunities.
Well, a lot of people are still keen because I think intuitively they know that there is value there, but unfortunately it's usually well-intentioned but equally ignorant parents, friends, whatever, offering the advice, and that isn't really very helpful at all.
It's like, I guess when you have, you're on a diet, when someone actually sits down with you and explains to you how bad sugar and fat and, preservatives are, you then are informed, and therefore you're less likely to continue on eating that junk because you're more informed and more educated. The same principles around money. Yeah,
exactly. Knowledge is power.
Okay, exactly.
And once people understand how the share market works, the fear disappears and they are able to approach it in a very coherent and rational manner.
And more importantly, they approach it with a more enthusiastic, inspired manner, so that they actually put actions behind those decisions and goals that they set for themselves.
It's one of those things, once people become more comfortable with it and they see the results that can be achieved, that's it. They're take off and they're flying.
Okay. Well, if you're wondering what the answers to how to understand the share market, I guess with a deeper and more informed understanding, this is the solution for you. I think I've probably bought about 10 of these books and given them to friends, and whenever I lend it to a friend, I never ever get it back. So I've bought this many a times and read it many times. The other question I have for you is, in your book, you're really passionate about industrial shares. I understand that you have bought mining shares in the past, to I guess keep your overall portfolio diversified. But what is it about industrial shares that you love so much, that you're so passionate about enough to just ignore a lot of other types of investments that are out there?
I should explain why I bought. It was purely a matter of spite. It had nothing to do with investment fundamentals. Someone, an analyst, had come out with a recommendation saying that BHP wasn't worth $20, so everyone said, oh God, isn't it? And they sold and it went to 10, and I thought, this is stupid, so I bought them at 10. They then split, 2 for 1, so I ended up with $5 shares. The analyst came out and said, oh, they're definitely worth more than $5, and they went back to 20. And I thought, damn, if that's as stupid as people are, they deserve to be taken advantage of.
So you jumped on an opportunity when everyone was experiencing fear.
It was pure speculation,
and
Canna. It was purely speculation, I acknowledge that, but it was just a fit of pique. But the industrials versus resources, to me, is a very simple hierarchy. The top of the food chain are industrial companies. Just
before you go on, can you just quickly explain to the viewers who don't know what industrial shares are?
Okay, industrial shares cover everything that isn't mining. So it's not just manufacturing, it's service companies like banks, like insurance companies, supermarkets, etc., etc. So it's everything that isn't mining.
So companies that produce a product or a service for the general public.
Absolutely, absolutely. So at the bottom of the food chain are the mining companies. They dig stuff out of the ground, and certainly my understanding of history is that throughout history, there has never been a great deal of value add digging stuff out of the ground. The value add for the human race has inevitably come from manufacturing, technological and intellectual inputs.
Okay.
So for example, who is going to make the most money? The companies that dig the raw materials out of the ground, or the company that manufactures the bionic ear? And I think the classic example for me during the global financial crisis was an article that just caught my eye, but really spelt it out. We were exporting iron ore at the peak of the boom at $250 a tonne to Korea, Taiwan, Japan, etc. And we were re-importing it, because 80% of our cars are imported, re-importing it in the shape of cars at $20,000 a tonne. And what fascinates me is that subsequent to that, the iron ore price went from $250 down to around $50 a tonne. I did not notice the price of imported cars falling
dropping
by
that
70%. So who was making the money? The miners or the manufacturers? So for me, digging stuff out of the ground is okay, it has to be done, but I personally would never invest in any mining company. I want to be at the top of the food chain.
You want your money working as efficiently as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, look, the proof is in the pudding. You've got some amazing charts and graphs here showing the comparison between cash, shares, industrial shares versus mining shares, and it's just when I read this book, and every time I read this book, it's just such a no-brainer. It's as I said, it's so easy to understand, but this really, once you've read this will really kickstart your passion and motivation for investing. Well, don't go away. We're actually going to be doing a second video, and Peter's going to be sharing with you his story as to how his career, how he started investing with his wife when they were newlyweds, and where they are today, and I guess the luxury and the comfort, the choice and the time, all these amazing benefits you have from being smart with your money and investing it for the future. So stay tuned, another video is coming up.